Almost 4 million people voted in our state yesterday, making it clear what concerns were important to them this time around. We've got abortion, crime and gun policy. There's also immigration, all issues on voters' minds yesterday. But the biggest concern by far, you guessed it, inflation. The exit polls showed it.
Have you had to adjust your lifestyles at all to accommodate for things just being more expensive?
Oh, definitely. I think about things more when I'm going shopping.
I started cutting back, and the kids started to see that because I was only buying necessities.
And particularly, with I've got a teenage boy in my house, and he's eating us out of house and home.
Yeah.
The Consumer Price Index for September showed core inflation rose 6.6% over the past 12 months. That is the highest rate since 1982. To fight inflation, the Federal Reserve has boosted interest rates 6 times so far this year, with the target range now sitting at 3.75 to 4%. You see this impacting debt and credit card interest rates as well as mortgage rates.
It is really spooking a lot of would-be buyers, but let's just kind of review these numbers for a second. Those numbers sound big, but let's make some context. If you were looking at, say, a $400,000 house at the beginning of this year, you had 20% down, you did all your saving, you put that money down, you got yourself a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The payment for your principal and interest was about, let's say, almost $1,400. Now, just months later, not even a year later, that same payment is over $2,100 a month. That's an extra $9 grand over the course of a year, and it means that a lot of people who are looking in the housing market have to lower their expectations, and that is where we're seeing a real deceleration in activity.
The Federal Reserve is cognizant of what's happening in the housing market, but they're willing to let the housing market go under a correction if that means inflation is going to come down.
Not only is it costing more to buy a home, but once you get it, the heating costs can be crazy too. Since last year, Americans collectively will pay nearly $24 billion more for heat. That includes the cost of natural gas, electricity, heating oil, and propane. Meg Oliver went to Connecticut to see how those rising costs are hitting people just trying to stay warm.
This room during the winter you really couldn't sit in because it was so drafty.
Drew Todd used to pay about $2 for a gallon of oil to heat his home in Norwalk, Connecticut, where he lives with his wife and 2 sons. But due to inflation, the cost to fill his 100-gallon tank has more than doubled.
Honestly, I think it's going to hit $7 in my opinion.
And can you afford that?
Not really. No, I don't know what the heck we're going to do.
If it gets really cold this winter, what's your plan?
Extra sweatshirts, extra blankets.
After losing his job in March, Todd applied for a state grant to help pay his energy bill.
How much longer can you keep this up?
I don't know. We're going to keep it up as best as possible and do little with less.
Nationwide, families can expect to pay nearly 18% more to heat their homes this winter. Compared to last year, heating oil is up 25% and natural gas up 31%, costing homeowners hundreds more. Lorenzo Wyatt owns Home Comfort Practice, which teaches people how to reduce their energy costs.
Why are we seeing an increase in home heating costs?
It's supply and demand. First and foremost, you have a global market for energy, for oil, natural gas, and then those costs have gone up because there's shortages.
As winter approaches, Wyatt advises improving insulation in the home, keeping the thermostat at 68 degrees, closing the fireplace damper, removing window air conditioners, and keeping your drapes closed.
Think of the home as a home envelope or like a big blanket. Okay, and so you want that blanket to be as thick as possible because what you want to do is you want to keep the heat inside.
Windows all closed, sealed for the winter.
Todd is hoping small adjustments will keep his family warm and his wallet fuller this winter.
I don't know whether to cry or laugh, or you have to laugh and you have to cry at the same time. It's an interesting emotion.
Frustrating.
Very beyond frustrating, because you don't know when something else, and it's going to happen. Something else will happen.
Feel that, just paid my propane bill today. One of the arguments Democrats had going into the election was that inflation in the United States was not as bad as it actually is in other parts of the world. Brandon Lewis verifies the claim as needing context.
The U.S.'s annual inflation rate in September was more than 8% as the cost for just about everything continues to go up. But some people are wondering whether we're feeling the effects of inflation harder than others around the world. So let's verify. Are there other comparable economies with worse inflation than the U.S.? Our sources are the International Monetary Fund and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Every month, the IMF tracks the inflation rate in most economies around the world. In September, inflation ranged from nearly 300% in Zimbabwe to less than 2% in Hong Kong. But economies vary in size around the world. If you compare the U.S. to a group of 36 countries with similar economies, the U.S. ranks 24th for inflation, meaning countries like Germany, Chile, and the UK currently have higher rates of inflation. So, yes, there are other comparable economies with worse inflation than the U.S.